is up, you guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Savannah Montgomery, for you guys who don't know, and I recently graduated from the illustrious Xavier University of Louisiana. I want to preface this video by saying this is a video to help you guys achieve a 4.0 or overall just better grades than you're currently getting. I am a first generation college student, so I know how overwhelming I remember how overwhelming college was, and not really knowing how to be successful, not knowing how to study, not knowing really what it takes to be a 4.0 student. And it took me 3 years to figure it out. I became very close to having 4.0s throughout my college career, but never got that 4.0, y'all. So I'm very blessed and honored to be making this video for you guys, to give you guys some tips on how I got a 4.0, and I hope it can help you all. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry. I was chemistry pre-med, so I took a lot of prerequisites for medical school and classes that would help up my chances into getting into medical school. So the first tip I want to give is kind of like a base tip. It's not really like out of the 5 tips I have, but the first tip I want to tell you all about is when you get your syllabus, and I'm pretty sure you guys have heard this before, you want to write the dates down in your planner, and you guys want to make sure you are keeping track of any important test dates, when assignments are due. Me, I used to use a Google document. If I have a screenshot, I'll input it into the video. I used Google Docs my senior year because it just kept track of everything. I color coded it. I color coded which subject went with what, and things of that sort. And it was a really good way to just check one document. Everything is so digitalized that having a Google Doc, which I can have on my phone, my computer, my iPad, was very helpful for me, because if something changed, I can just boom, hop on my iPad, input the change, and change the date. And I really liked having it because it was organized all in one document where I can see all of my classes, all one list all together. Another way I put in things for my syllabus were via my planner. So I did have a paper planner at the beginning of my senior year, but then I switched to a digital planner. Either or is fine, whichever works for you and helps you remember. I didn't use my planner as much just because the digital Google Sheet works the best for me. So it's really whatever helps and works best for you. So the first tip I want to give is to, one, make a study guide. I think that, and I will incorporate pictures and videos throughout this YouTube video for you all if I find and have them. I think that I started making study guides, I want to say I think it was like my second semester junior year. And I think study guides, I didn't really utilize study guides as much because teachers do provide sometimes, like my freshman year, they would provide you with like study guides or just like a list of basic things you need to know. But I found it extremely helpful my senior year making my own study guides with the high yield information, or information that was talked about a lot, or the information that teachers would emphasize on. I made study guides in regards to that information. Now with this study guide, I'm not just saying like, oh, write a whole bunch of information down, never look at it again. No, this was an active recall type of study guide. It was like where I would ask myself a question and then I would have the information. So I would kind of cover up the study guide and read it as I go, reading the question aloud, writing it on my whiteboard, or just thinking of it in my head, and then reiterating the information back out. So that's my number one thing, is to make a study guide, make your own study guide, revamp your own notes, because if you're on a time crunch with time, you're taking 7-8 other classes, having a study guide really allows you to just review harder information and high yield information in a short amount of time quickly. So study guide is number one. My second tip is office hours. I feel like I went to office hours way more my senior year because I was taking high level STEM classes. My first semester of my senior year, I was taking all STEM classes. I took 12 credits worth of STEM classes. If I'm not mistaken, I was taking metabolism, drug synthesis and design, bioinformatics, and there's another one I can't quite remember, but I was taking and I was taking microbial physiology, and it was a lot taking 12 STEM credits because STEM classes, as we know, are harder than other classes, and it was a lot and it was mentally draining. So I found myself going to office hours asking questions. Even if I had an A in the class, I was always going to office hours and asking questions. I like to ask questions during the class period as well, but sometimes, of course, as we all know, we get shy sometimes and we don't want to ask questions, even though you can ask questions and you should be asking questions right then and there when you're confused. For me, I would ask in class, but then I would also go home and study and be like, hey, look, this is actually a question I have. So I would then write that question down, so when I went to office hours, I knew exactly the questions that I was asking to my professor, and I wasn't wasting any time and I wasn't playing any games. My third tip to get a 4.0 is going to be practice questions. There's just something about knowing the information but then practicing it in a way that can be asked on the exam. So this kind of goes back to that making a study guide, how I would write questions on the study guide and then have the answers, but it's a whole sheet document study guide. You can also ask teachers for old practice exams, or if they have practice questions. Sometimes teachers may have like 10 or 15 questions, or in class they'll say, hey, I'm gonna ask a question that goes like, this part of the body corresponds with which type of nerves, so like sometimes teachers will just talk in their lecture and they'll be like, I'm gonna ask a question like this, which one of the like asking pretty much anything, like which type of enzyme does this, or what role does this enzyme play in this, and like any types of questions. Teachers will usually be like, oh, I can ask a question like this. I'm writing it down in like red on my notes, like starring it like question type. And I did this a lot with anatomy because my anatomy professor would always say, hey, y'all, I can ask a question like this. And he would literally tell us the type of question he could ask. And most of the time, the question or the form of the question that he told us in class was on the exam. So practice questions, making your own practice questions, listening to your teachers when they talk about types of practice questions they could potentially ask, and getting old exams and things of that sort, and just coming up with your own practice questions is really the best way, I feel like, to understand the information. And after you've taken one exam with the teacher, you kind of get to know their teaching style and how they are as a teacher, so then you can kind of make up your own questions and kind of anticipate what the teacher is going to ask you. My fourth tip in order to get a 4.0 is active recall. Y'all, I started doing active recall my junior year, second semester, and when I tell y'all, it is a game changer. You could do the flashcards on Quizlet. You can use Anki. I used Anki. Anki is where you put in a front card and a back card. You do your card. If you get it right, you can put it to where you don't have to view it for 3 days. And being repetitive with your active recall is how that information stays. It's a complete game changer. And this is really why I got a 4.0 my senior year. Like, active recall. So like I would literally just have some free time. I'll have the Anki app on my phone and I'm just like, okay, well, I got time to do some cards really quickly. And when I would do cards like that, like in the car driving with like a friend or something, and we're going to like get something to eat, and I'm in the car with them in the passenger seat, I'm like on Anki, like, okay, I can scroll on social media for 5 minutes, but then I'm like, you know what, let me get some cards done. Let me get a few cards done. And I always would only do cards that I've seen before, because it's like, okay, I'm just reviewing this information. I would never do new cards while being distracted, only do cards that I've seen before. So Anki was one of the main databases that I use for active recall, and I'm currently using that for studying for my professional school exams. So that is the main source of active recall I use. Quizlet is also another one. I feel like a lot of people that are in like high school and early years in college are using Quizlet, and I never, although it doesn't have the option to like, oh, I know this card, I can review it in 3 days, it is a good another good source of active recall. My fifth step for getting a 4.0 is something I started to do, I want to say, well, all these things I started to do my senior year, is brain dumping. And I've been doing this while doing my MCAT studying, and brain dumping has been very rewarding. I feel like oftentimes we feel as though we've studied the whole day and it's like, oh, what else can I study? Like, or you feel like you're not retaining any of the information. I found that brain dumping was very beneficial for me, because I would, for example, I would go through a chapter of my book and I would do my Anki cards. I would do practice problems and practice questions, applying what I've learned. And sometimes I would just feel like, dang, like I feel like I did all this and, you know, I got a couple questions wrong. What am I missing? I would re-go over these topics and I'm just like, I feel like I know nothing. And that's when I said, you know what, let's brain dump. Let's get every single thing that we know about this certain topic out of our brain. So you could do that with your study guide sheet, where you have a topic. If your topic is, you know, enzymes, kinetics, you can just literally dump everything: competitive, uncompetitive inhibitor, mixed inhibitor, the type of inhibitors. Like, just dump everything out on the board, what you know. And then I would go in with a red marker. I would fix anything that I saw was incorrect from my brain dump, and then I would note the things down that I couldn't quite remember. I know it's not the best form of memorization and getting your brain to memorize information, but I did find it rewarding to brain dump, because it just makes you feel like, you know what, I remembered all this just looking at a plain whiteboard, dumping out this information. I remembered all these things. And I think that's what's the most important thing, because sometimes some of your tests are going to be written response where there aren't multiple choice answers. And I just feel like being able to brain dump and being able to just know stuff off the top of your head, or try to think back to a topic and write down as much as you can, is really beneficial. I know I said I was only going to do 5 tips, but here's a 6th tip that I have. It's going to be teaching. I think that being able to teach yourself and teach invisible people, or teach your friends information, really help you understand the information. I used to teach my boyfriend anatomy. I used to teach my boyfriend anatomy all throughout my second semester of senior year. I had study guides. I would have him ask me questions. I would have him look at like a page in my notes and be like, ask me a question. And I would try to explain it to him in a particular way for him to be able to understand it. Him being a business and finance major, it often was hard, but being able to bring it to a level to where he could understand it, I knew myself that I really knew the information. So teaching individuals what you're learning really helps. And sometimes I would just, and I knew in particular for like bioinformatics, when I took that my first semester of my senior year, I was writing on my whiteboard and I had a pointer and I was talking through the problems, because the problems would be complex problems, and I would just talk myself through these problems, and I'd be like, okay, well, this is how this problem works, and, you know, go step by step by step. Another thing is that kind of goes back to my making a study guide. Another thing I did was I would write out the step process and how a particular problem would work. So I did this a lot for bioinformatics, and I did this a lot for physical chemistry, where I would write step by step how a problem worked. Because as we know, as the day and the day of an exam, you don't really supposed to practice problems with the numbers, because it can make your nerves really bad if things aren't calculating and coming out correctly. And I was a person who, I calculated a few days beforehand, and then the next day, instead of calculating the information, I would just write out the steps to a problem. Oftentimes I feel like you kind of you see an example in class, you copy it down, then the teacher's like, okay, do the next one on your own, and you do the next one on your own, and then it's like you get home and you try to do a similar problem, and it's like, how did you even start? So I found it very, very helpful writing down the processes of how to solve a particular problem. And it would be a generalized, it wouldn't be like, oh, then divide the 2 by the 3. No, it would be very generalized steps to help me better understand the problem, because you're understanding this is how the problem works. And it also helped me understand the background information, because I know with physical chemistry, my teacher asked a lot of background information in regards to what type of theory was this, what type of process is this. So writing it out step by step, and how to determine what type of theory, what theory was used, what equation was used, things like that really helped me receive and earn a 4.0 my whole senior year. Another tip I want to give before I get off of here, y'all, I want to thank you if you got this far in the video, and I want to wish you luck on your upcoming semester, because college is very hard and it's very challenging, and going and being at the university is a huge accomplishment. Getting your degree, C's get degrees, I want to say congratulations for watching this video, and for just being you and being at a university or community college or in high school. Like, congratulations. And clearly you want to do better and you want to be better, and that's why you watched this video, and I'm glad I was able to give you guys some tips. The last and final thing I'm gonna say is enjoy yourselves. I think that my junior year, first semester, Hurricane Ida hit, and I was mentally exhausted, and I did the worst ever. However, it wasn't as bad, but in my own academic career, I did the worst ever, was my junior year. And I feel like I was cooped up. I didn't hang out with friends. I didn't go many places. I was very, very depressed. And with senior year, when I look back at my senior year, I know I took 12 credits, STEM credits, my first semester, and then my second semester I was taking 9 STEM credits and then a 3-credit Spanish class. So I was still taking a nice amount of STEM. But I was also having a lot of fun my senior year, y'all. Like, I was going out to eat a lot of places. I was going out to the park. I was going on dates with my boyfriend. I was seeing friends. I was traveling. I did a lot my senior year, and I'm very blessed because it gave me that balance, because burnout is real. And in junior year, I really burnt myself out, and my grades were a result of burnout. So I just want to tell y'all, take breaks. Please be kind to yourselves. Treat yourself with kindness. And you're almost there. This video was the step that you took to get there. So comment down below if you guys have any questions. I'm an open book. I will always be an open book. My socials are down below. Follow me, subscribe, because over 70% of my viewers are not subscribed to my channel. We're trying to get to 1K, road to 1K, y'all. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'm out. Bye.